What is going on, guys? Misfit here. I thought I'd make a guide on my Diablo 2 Resurgence build, the Infernal Paladin. This is for the Diablo 2 Resurgence mod, and if you are new to the mod and you haven't heard of the Resurgence mod before, do go to the Diablo 2 Resurgence subreddit and check it out. There's lots of video guides on how to get it set up, and it's really not a difficult thing, so do check it out. It adds a lot of cool stuff to the game. Without further ado, here is the build. The gear and the build are focused around proccing the ability Infernal Nova, which is granted by both the Void Flame Ring and the Effigy of Diablo's Shield, which you can get from Diablo. The ring isn't necessary, really only the shield is necessary, but the ring does double our proc chance. It has an additional 15% chance to cast the Nova when you are struck. And this build is focused around clearing the area killing fields, so you're not really going to be doing Cave of Horrors or anything with this build, and you'll see why that is in a second here. Yeah, so we're stacking as much fire damage and fire pierce as we can, just so our Infernal Nova can kill the fire immune and highly fire resistant monsters in killing fields. So let's take a look at the rest of our gear here. So we have a Phoenix weapon. I think this is the best in slot weapon for this build. You could also use a Destruction. I guess you can make an argument for like Crescent Moon or Lightsaber, but I think really Phoenix and then Destruction are your only two real choices. The reason I think Phoenix is the better weapon is because it has much higher fire pierce. It has 38%, which is enormous. We're getting most of our pierce from this weapon. And then it also procs a level 25 Firestorm on striking, which does proc pretty often. This is the kind of flex slots. I'm using 3-piece Anger's Council, and the reason I'm using this is because it lets us hit our IAS breakpoint. It gives us a little bit of attack speed. It gives us a lot of increased fire damage. I see I have a Vex socketed in this, which gives us an additional 10% on top of the original 15%. Fire damage, giving us a total of 25%, and it gives us 15% that 15% pierce as well, which is really good. I'm using the Anger's Council Amulet as well. I did corrupt this for another +1 all skills, but that's really not necessary. Skills don't really give this build very much. We don't really care about the cast rate or the mana regeneration. For the body armor, I'm using the Material's Might. It gives us some additional experience. Magic Resist, which isn't really useful. It does give us Cannot Be Frozen, which is very useful for killing fields. There's the Ice Damage Archers. It also gives us the Salvation Aura, which is really helpful for capping our resistances, as we do not really have much resistances on the rest of our gear. Socketed in this item, I do have a Scarlet Dreams Jewel, which gives us life gain on striking. When you're Zealing, you're hitting a lot, so that's going to give us a lot of life and a little bit of life leech as well. For the shield, I already showed you this. This is the Effigy of Diablo. It does not normally have resistance on it, but I did corrupt it for 25 all res. Socketed in this item, I think, is the Anger Jewel, which adds an additional 20% increased attack speed at the cost of minus fire resistance, but we don't really care about minus fire resistance. We already overcapped, so the 20% increased attack speed just lets us hit our breakpoint. For the boots, I'm using Sunwalkers. You can replace these with really any other boots. They're just really nice because they add some flat fire damage, and they give us maximum fire resistance, which is really good for tanking the fire mortar guys in killing fields. For the ring number 1, we have the Void Flame. This is not necessary. You can use a Carnage Heart and replace your gloves. You can use really any ring you think you want to use here, but Void Flame is going to be the best one because it does double the proc chance of Infernal Nova. For the belt, this is pretty much necessary. It's you don't need the fully upgraded version. It just adds a bit of physical resistance and life leech. Additionally, you will get the fortified melee attack with this belt, so that is really, really important as it adds a lot of damage reduction when you are sitting in the middle of a huge pack of monsters. For the other ring, this is also very important. This is a Mirabelle's Tragedy. The only thing we care about on this ring is the Elemental Volatility, which gives us 20% of our increased elemental damage as additional elemental pierce. And this is, again, just stacking that pierce, trying to kill those really high fire resistant enemies. For our gloves, we have Iron Fists. Now, you can replace these with really any gloves you want, so long as you're using the Carnage Heart ring. So if you do have the Carnage Heart ring, go ahead and replace these with whatever. I do not have space for the Carnage Heart ring because I'm using the Void Flame and the Mirabella, so I'm elected to use the Iron Fist. For charms, you're going to want to have Hellfire on striking. You may only want one Hellfire on striking charm, but I just put 3 because I don't really care about it having more life leech. Fire damage and fire pierce. You may have to have a few attack speed charms, as you see I have, just to hit that breakpoint. So, and then obviously your Annie. For Nephilim Valley, you're going to want the Templar. Another option is to use the Guardian for fortified melee attack, and you can replace your belt, but I do think the Templar, with his increased R effect and the Fist of Heaven's proc, is better than the Guardian. And then your torch, if you have a torch. For stats, you're going to want to put all your points into Vitality, except enough Strength and enough Dexterity to use gear. You do not want to cap your block on this build, because when you do cap your block, you're going to be getting hit less, which means you're going to be proccing Infernal Nova less, which means your clear speed is going to go down. So you do not want to put a lot of points into Dexterity. You don't really care about your accuracy rating, and that is because your conviction is going to be reducing the opponent's defense rating below 100%, so against normal monsters, you're really going to not be caring about accuracy rating at all. Let's go ahead and take a look at our stat sheet here and our skills. As you can see, we only have 9 poison resistance, and this is because we don't care about poison damage at all in Killing Fields. There are no poison monsters except for the zombies that the boss in the middle spawns. As long as you don't kill those zombies, and even if you do, they don't really deal that much damage. We really don't care about poison resistance at all. For absorption, we have a little bit of fire absorb from our shield and a little bit of flat reduction from our void flame and our weapon. We have some physical resistance from defiance. We have some elemental reduction as well. Our mastery is at 108%. That is increased fire damage, and our pierce is at 76%. When we proc Hellfire, this is going to go up to 148%, and our pierce is going to go up by an additional 8% as well. You can see our IS is 54. This is actually below our breakpoint. We're missing a breakpoint on IS, and we're also missing a lot of hit recovery breakpoints. This is not really a big deal as you might think, because we're not really dealing our damage with attacks. We're dealing almost all of our damage from our Infernal Nova, so hit recovery and IS are not that big of a deal, but if you can find some way to get this to 72 and get this to maybe 50, or I think it's 86 is the breakpoint, then go ahead and do that, but I don't think it's really worth sacrificing gear pieces. We'd have a bit of Crushing Blow, not really worth it. Flat damage, whatever, we're not really dealing damage with attacks. Okay, let's take a look at our skills here. We're going to want 20 points into Zeal, 1 point into Holy Shield, 20 points into Resist Fire, 1 point into Defensive Aura Mastery, 20 points into Conviction, 20 points into Offensive Aura Mastery, and then dump all the rest of your points into Defiance. On our weapon swap, we have a Crescent Moon and a Kajas. This allows us to kill bosses much more quickly and also to kill small packs. I pretty rarely swap to this, but it is really nice because it does proc the Static Field effect, which is basically like Crushing Blow. It will melt bosses. So if you can get this weapon swap, great. If not, it's not really a big deal. And I think that'll be it for the guide. I'm going to post a video which is 8-man Killing Fields, just to kind of show you what the clear speed is like on this build and see if you want to try it out for yourself. Thank you.